welcome to the Dr. Tim Jennings Show, where we seek real answers to life's real problems. I'm your host, Dr. Tim Jennings, here with co-host Susan Collenberg.
Hi, we'd like to welcome you to the show today, and we are going to be discussing design law versus imposed law. And but before we get and how to live free, that's the most important part. But before we get to our topic for today, we have a question, and it's from Lance. And he asks, why is gossip wrong? Besides the obvious injury to the person that you are gossiping about, is there any effects that it has on the actual gossiper?
So first off, let's define what gossip is. Okay. My view, gossip is tale-bearing, spreading tales to people who don't have a need to know.
Okay.
And without the intention to bless, help, or benefit the person who's being talked about.
Okay.
Think through that definition.
Yeah, because sometimes you talk about somebody and your intent is to help, it's not to harm. So,
right, but if you're sharing the information to people who don't have the need to know,
okay,
even if it's true or false doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay, spreading information to people who don't need to know.
Okay.
Okay, in ways that are not intended to help.
Okay.
I think this is
very specific.
I think this is what gossip is all about.
Right.
And gossip is damaging because it damages not just the person who is gossiped about, but it damages the community.
Okay.
It damages the system that people are operating in. It puts ideas or constructs in the minds of other people that they wouldn't have to necessarily struggle with, that now they might have to struggle with. It might tempt them to be angry or resentful or bitter that they would never have to struggle with had they not heard the gossip.
Right.
Okay. And the gossiper, the people who gossip primarily do this out of a self-centered focus, even though they deceive themselves and think they're somehow benefiting and doing this out of a need to benefit the community, protect others, and so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. But the real need is they want to be special. They want to be someone that they get that sense of, oh, really? Oh, and they want to be the special person who comes bearing the news. And it's harmful to the gossiper because ultimately gossipers ruin their own reputation in the community and they undermine people's ability to trust them. People do not trust gossipers.
So on our last program, we talked about brain science. Does it actually damage someone's brain when they engage in gossip about other people?
So I would say yes, because when people engage in gossip, and again, we're talking actual gossip, which is something that's done that's injurious or harmful. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, we're not talking about communicating information with intention to help and bless and to the people who need to know, who do then bring blessings about. That's not gossip, okay? So, but the gossiper, yes, they damage themselves because they actually live in fear.
Okay.
When people gossip, they actually are afraid that they're going to be found out. They're afraid that and if you doubt me on this, just remember all the little scenarios that you've seen depicted in TV or other places where somebody's gossiping about somebody and that person's standing there and listening. And then they turn and the person is just stressed out over it. See, that shows that they are not at peace with what they're doing. They know what they're doing is wrong.
Right.
And they're doing it in secret.
Mm-hmm.
And
they would never say it to your face.
You didn't hear this from me, but
right, don't say anything. Right.
Okay, and so yes, it's harmful because it activates fear and stress circuitry, and it doesn't. And fear and stress circuitry activates inflammatory factors and cascades in the body that undermine health.
And it's kind of like somebody's trying to boost themselves up at the expense of somebody else.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the answer. And if you have a question that you'd like to send to Dr. Tim Jennings for the program, go to timjenningsmd.com and submit your question. So you have various books, and you keep going back to this overriding theme, and it is design law versus imposed law.
Right.
So tell us, let's get deep in the weeds on this one.
Okay. Yes, so design law versus design law, again, protocols upon which reality are built. We're going to go through some specific ones so people know what some of the design laws are.
Okay.
But in general principle, doctors cannot get patients well in violations of the laws of health.
Okay.
Whenever a doctor is doing for a patient to try to heal them, if you understand the laws of health, the doctor is working to put the patient back in harmony with the laws of health. Whether they're giving medicine, whether they're giving therapy, whatever they're doing, they're trying to move them back because when you break the laws of health, you have health problems.
Right.
And you can't avoid them. The difference between design laws, God's laws, laws upon which reality operate, and man's laws, man can pass laws to make marijuana and tobacco legal. Mm-hmm. They cannot pass laws to make it healthy.
Right.
Okay? Childish, immature thinking, well, tobacco's legal. Oh, marijuana's legal in Colorado, legal in California. Well, if it's legal, okay, then it's okay. I can smoke it.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Yes, you can pass laws to make things legal, but you can't pass laws to make things healthy. The mature person makes decisions based on the laws of health, not based on the laws of the land, legal and illegality. Okay? And the immature people, well, if it's legal, I can do it, and then I have all these health problems, and why do I have these health problems? It's legal.
Right.
Okay, this is childish thinking.
Okay. And so people need to recognize what the consequences of their decisions are.
But that, yes, to recognize consequence of decision means you're thinking on a higher level than rules.
Right.
Okay? Rules are just about the consequences under a rule system are imposed by someone.
So I guess that's the distinction between the two then.
The big distinction between the two types of laws, imposed law have no inherent consequence.
Okay.
If you go 40 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone, is there any inherent consequence to that? Inherent.
No.
No, there's no consequence unless some authority figure enforces a consequence upon you.
Pulls you
That's
over.
imposed law.
Okay.
But how about smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day? How about doing illegal drugs and you're not caught by an authority figure? Do you avoid the consequence?
No.
How about cheating on your spouse? Cheating on your spouse and you're not caught. Do you avoid the consequence?
I don't think so.
No, you don't. Because when you cheat on your spouse, you will actually damage your character. You will have fear of being caught. You'll begin to tell lies and to begin worrying about being found out. You have guilt to deal with. You'll have all these consequences internal. And if you don't resolve that and make a change in your inner person, then over the course of time, you become more guilt-ridden, more untrustworthy as a human being, more likely to cheat, lie, and you're being changed as a person. That's the consequence, and you harden your heart over time.
Okay, so it's basically you're going against that law of love.
Okay? In that particular case, that is going against the law of love because you're not, but it's even more than that. But yes, you're going against the law of love because you're exploiting and taking advantage of the person who's trusted you.
Right. So the law of love and the principle of giving. Do you want to kind of expand on that idea?
So let's just kind of go over some of the design laws. Okay. One of those is the law of love, which is the principle of beneficence. And this is the supreme law over all laws, and all laws that life operate on in some way are connected to the law of love. And all living systems have to operate in harmony with this law. If you break this law, the system will die. And this is the principle of giving. And the oceans give their waters to the clouds, which run over the lands, forming lakes, rivers, and streams, which go back to the oceans, a never-ending circle of giving that brings life. If a body of water separates from the circle and won't give, it stagnates and everything and it dies.
Okay.
Every system. Economy. For an economy to be healthy, the money has to be in circulation. If you take the money out of circulation, the economy will collapse and die. Every breath you take, you give away carbon dioxide to the plants give oxygen back to you, a never-ending circle of giving upon which life is built. If you decide to stop giving and hold your breath and hoard your carbon dioxide, then you will die. This is a principle of life. All living systems give. As soon as they stop, they begin to die.
So is there a difference about the reasons why you give? You know, what's behind the giving? Does that make a difference in someone's life?
Yes, and so it absolutely makes a difference. You can give in love, or you can give in selfishness.
Right.
Okay, and so
or to make sure that you're making sure you're checking off the checkbox. I did this and I did that.
Right, and so you can get the physiological benefit to give out of selfishness, but you can't get the character benefit to give out of selfishness. So, for instance, you can give out of selfishness. To somebody in order to get food, and you're doing it just to get the food back, and you give them the money, and they give you the food, and you give them the money, and but you don't really care about those people at all.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you're surviving because you're giving in order to get what you want.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
And so, but that continues to go on. However, when you're giving in relationships in order to get from people, then you're not actually loving them, you're exploiting them. And so over the course of time, you become more self-centered, more hard-hearted, and you're less capable of actually loving. I give in order to get what I want. And if I don't get what I want, then I get angry and I want to punish the person for not giving back what I thought they should have given me for what I gave them.
Okay, so it doesn't matter your mindset.
So, for instance, I'm going to give to my wife in a selfish way by cleaning the kitchen for her.
Okay.
Now, I work all day, she doesn't, I'm going to come home and clean the kitchen. And what I'm giving, I'm not giving to give. I'm giving to get. And what I'm wanting to get is I'm wanting to get praise. I'm wanting to get admiration. I'm wanting to get sex. I'm wanting to get some reward from her. So I'm going to clean the kitchen to get my reward. Okay. That's not giving to give. That's giving to get recognized, to getting to be appreciated. And then if it doesn't happen, she comes in late, she's tired, she doesn't notice the kitchen, she doesn't say anything, then I'm angry. Hey, see if I clean the kitchen for you again.
Right.
Okay, that's not giving. Okay. That's manipulation.
Okay.
That's giving and to get.
So it kind of, does altruism kind of fit into this?
Altruism is giving in order to give. That's what, by definition, it is. Altruism is giving to another just to give to another, not to get something back.
So let's get back to the design law and imposed law. Tell us about the principles of imposed law.
No, I want to go through the design laws.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I want to actually describe some of the design laws. Okay.
Yep.
And so we went through the law of love. The
Yes.
next big one is the law of liberty.
Okay.
The law of liberty is a design law that many people may not have heard about, and it in relationships. And if they may not have heard about it, it's when I say design law, it's like the law of gravity. You may not have heard of gravity, but it's a constant. And if you go to the top of a building and say, I don't believe in gravity, and jump off, gravity doesn't care. It still works. Liberty's like this. You may not have heard of it, but it's a constant. And so imagine a young man dating a woman, and after months of dating, he gets down on a knee and proposes.
Okay.
She feels fond for him, but isn't sure he's the one, so she asks for a little bit to think about her answer. He becomes insecure. He reaches in his pocket. He pulls out a pistol, puts it to her head, says, look, I spent time on you. I spent money on you. You better marry me. You better love me, or I will kill you. Now, he's violating her liberty. And when you do that, predictable consequences happen. Consequence number one, love is damaged. Does she want to cuddle with this guy?
No, she wants to get as far away from him as possible.
So love is damaged, always damaged, will be
Right.
destroyed, and a desire to rebel is instilled in the heart. Predictable every time. You cannot get love by violating liberty. And a third consequence will happen in the violation of the law of liberty. If a person chooses to stay when they have the option to leave, but they stay anyway, over the course of time, they lose their individuality. Their ability to think and reason for themselves is eroded, and they become what I call a shadow person, a person who only sees life through the mind of the person they've surrendered to. This is a testable law. You can test it in any relationship. Next time you go out to eat with your spouse and they ask for a Coca-Cola from the waitress, turn to the waitress and say, she can't have Coke, bring her water. See, love will not grow there. Love will be
Right.
bruised. Your spouse
will be bruised,
your
right?
spouse may want to go to a table by themselves.
Right.
Rebellion will be instilled.
Right.
This is a testable law. And many relationships and people that come to see me have problems because these laws are being violated in their relationship in some sense of threat. Now, most people don't use real guns. They use what I call emotional guns. You don't do what I say. I'm going to pout. I'm going to stomp. I'm going to cry. I'm going to do some of these things. When we come back from our break, maybe we can pick up with this law of liberty stuff and expand a little bit more on how people can bring principles to bring healing into their relationships, because I think it's a really important thing for us to go over.
In The God-Shaped Brain, Dr. Jennings reveals how changing our view of God changes our brain. In this book, you will discover how beliefs rewire the brain, how different views of God can alter both physical and mental health, how childhood experiences alter brain structure, and actions you can take to experience healing of brain, body, and relationships here and now. The God-Shaped Brain is a genuine breakthrough in understanding the human condition. Get your copy today wherever books are sold.
Hello, I'm Dr. Tim Jennings with your Mental Health Minute. Would you like to experience better physical and mental health? Then consider volunteering in your community. Studies have shown that youth who give of their time to help others perform better in school, have greater self-confidence, and are more likely to become leaders in society than those who do not. And amongst adults, those who volunteer experience better physical and mental health, lower rates of disability while maintaining their autonomy as they age. And amazingly, these benefits persisted even after taking into account baseline limitations, socioeconomic status, health status, employment, exercise, smoking, and marital status. When we volunteer to help others, we activate the brain's love circuits, which calm the brain's fear circuits, reducing inflammation, thereby reducing physical and mental illness. To be smart requires a healthy brain, so be smart, live to give.
To learn more about mental health, visit comeandreason.com.
Could it be this simple is a logical, reasonable explanation of why God is someone we can trust, based on evidence in the Bible and the natural world.
Could it be this simple is captivating and filled with examples that are down to earth, practical, and relevant for today?
Could it be this simple is the clearest and most direct explanation of why one should be a person of faith?
Get your copy of Could It Be This Simple at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold.
Welcome back. And we are talking about some design laws. And we're going to go back to with Dr. Jennings and just give us some more of those design laws, those principles that are inherent in life.
We want to finish up with the liberty question.
Okay.
And we were talking about the principles of liberty, and many people in relationships are in these relationships where one person's coercing another person.
Yes.
Sometimes, and we see about it and we hear about it in the news, it's really violent physical coercion. But that's not the majority. That's the minority. The majority is the emotional coercion. You don't do what I say, I'm going to cry. I'm going to stomp. I'm going to pout. I'm going to slam doors. I'm going to curse. I'm going to withhold sex. I'm going to withhold money. There's this pressure in a relationship. If I don't do what my spouse wants, there's some price to pay. You feel the emotional gun point in your direction. And therefore, liberty is being undermined. And in that relationship, your love is being damaged, and you're wanting to rebel. If you're choosing to stay anyway, then you're slowly surrendering your thinking processes, and it goes like this. Well, I'd like to go out with my friends after work today, but my husband's going to be mad. He's going to criticize, so I better not do it. So you're not actually thinking of the merits of whether it would be a good idea to go out with your friends after work. You're thinking about whether that person will punish you if you don't or not.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And slowly over the time, you stop thinking for yourself and you surrender your thinking to what the other person wants you to do. Now, many patients come to see me in the relationships like this and they're distraught because they feel the love is going out of the relationship. They don't want to stop loving their spouse. They want the love to grow. And I point out to them, as long as the relationship works like this, it's not possible. And I give them this example. Let's say you and your husband were on top of the roof, roofing together.
Okay.
And your husband comes over and throws you off the roof.
Okay.
For that first millisecond as you're flying off the roof, do you have a strong desire in your heart to stay up there on the roof?
You bet.
Yes. Once you're off the roof, though, does gravity care how strong your desire is?
It has, no.
No, the law of gravity doesn't care. And it doesn't matter how strong your desire is. Once you're out of harmony with the law here, you are going down.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
And what happens in these relationships in which one person dominates or seeks to control another is that the partner wants to have warm, positive feelings of love, but they can't keep those warm, positive feelings of love because the liberties are being violated. And what will happen is then the person who's being thrown off the roof, metaphorically speaking, will fall. They will get themselves hurt. They will be down on the bottom. They'll be depressed. They'll be hurting. They'll be crying. And the one who threw them off the roof looks over and goes, "What's wrong with you? You're always so depressed and you're always so down all the time."
Right. Wow, that's like everyday life, right?
This happens all the time, right?
Right.
And so these women come to see me depressed in relationships like this. Sometimes men, because they have domineering wives too. But they think they're the problem because they're depressed, they're unhappy, they don't have love. They think, what's wrong with me? And what's wrong is your husband keeps throwing you off, and it doesn't even have to be intentional. Let's say you're up roofing with your husband, and he bends over to pick up a bucket of nails, and as he picks up a bucket of nails, he accidentally bumps you off the roof. Well, gravity treats you differently. No. So sometimes it's not malicious in the sense I'm seeking to dominate and control. It's just a pattern of behavior based off insecurities and things that they've learned, and they're not intentionally, but they're still doing this out of this need to be in control, this fear of rejection for themselves, this desperate wanting to be, and so they do all these manipulative things that take away your liberty, and not even realizing what they're doing, but the consequence is still the same.
Right. Wow.
And so the only way to have health is to live in harmony with the design laws upon which health is built. And in this particular case, other relationships require freedom. Love can only exist in an atmosphere of liberty. So we've gone over the law of love, which is the principle of giving.
Yes.
We've gone over the law of liberty, which is the principle of freedom. And only in that atmosphere can love grow and exist. And so if you're in a relationship in which those have been violated and you want to have that love come back, then begin really practicing in governance of self. I'm going to set my partner free. Okay? And one of the subtle ways to do it is people who have a lot of insecurities are not willing to give their partner or significant other freedom to disagree with them, freedom to not like them, freedom to be mad at them. And so they're constantly seeking and modulating their behavior to seek to control what kind of reaction and what kind of opinion they're going to get.
So they become the person that they think that their spouse wants them to be instead of being the person that they are.
Exactly right, because they're trying to control the other person's reactions rather than
I can identify with that.
Rather than simply saying, hey, wait a second. I'm responsible for choosing in governance of me what is actually factually healthy and reasonable and good for me to do with myself. That's my responsibility. And then I'm going to set my partner free to not like it if they don't like reasonable, healthy, and good.
And then they have the liberty
to pout if they need to pout, to cry if they need to cry, to whine if they need to whine, to leave you if they want to leave you.
Right.
But you would, if you
Or they can grow.
Or they can
and
grow.
And we grow together.
Or they can appreciate you
Right.
and thank you and validate you. But the point is, you, the healthy person, has to be willing to set their partner free. And only in that atmosphere can love and maturity grow.
And it's and for a lot of people, I think there's a lot of fear.
Okay.
on that.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Okay. Fear drives. So we've talked about the law of love.
Yes.
We've talked about the law of liberty. The next big one is the law of worship.
Okay.
By beholding, we become changed. In psychiatry and psychology, it's called modeling. We actually become like what we admire and worship, what we spend time thinking about and focusing on. We rewire our brains. We change our values and characters. And so one of the problems with the liberty piece.
Mm-hmm.
In many religious homes is they have faulty worship. They worship an authoritarian God who makes up rules and threatens to punish you, and he doesn't give you real freedom. If you don't do it his way, you're under a coercive threat. And so they become like the God they worship, and they bring those principles to bear into their home, and they take freedoms in their home. And where homes get authoritarian, and there's so much really dysfunction in many Christian homes because of these practices.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, and so these are connected.
So the law of worship.
Law of worship, by beholding, we become changed. You will become like the God you admire and worship. And so this is why it's critical to come back to see God as creator. His laws are the laws upon which reality are built. They're not imposed rules. They don't require infliction of punishment. When you break the laws, God is your advocate and friend who's seeking to heal you from the damage. But if you won't let him, the damage will only get worse and worse and worse, rather than God is the one that's causing the damage that you need to be protected from.
Right. So he wants to heal you, but we're afraid to go to him because we think he's going to get us.
You're exactly right.
Okay.
This is the big lie.
Right.
So one of the challenges, one of the things this ministry is trying to do, and our program is trying to do, is to educate people on how reality actually works. Which is design law, what we're talking about today. And if you get that big umbrella theme, what are the laws upon which reality is built? Laws of physics, laws of thermodynamics, law of love, law of liberty, law of worship. These are design laws, and say, hey, where am I in harmony? Where am I out of harmony?
So you know what's interesting? It seems as though as human beings, we know the imposed laws really well, but we don't understand that, or we don't even know that there are these design laws.
And that's why so many people are so dysfunctional and and struggling so hard to try to some sense of their life because they're trying to keep rules.
Right.
But rules will often lead you out of harmony with design law. I see this in Christian groups all the time. Well, the rule says da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then they end up doing things that are actually injurious in certain circumstances because you cannot write a rule for every circumstance. For instance, I'll just make one up here. Somebody that might want to, in a Christian circle, protect the modesty of women and not exploit women and not hurt women and so forth and so on. They might make up a rule that it is absolutely forbidden to ever rip a woman's blouse open and expose her chest. Okay, they might make up a rule like that.
Okay.
Okay. And then a woman has a heart attack in church, and the EMTs come to defibrillate her, but they won't allow them to open the shirt
Because
to defibrillate her
because
a woman can't be bare in church, and the rule says you can't do that, so they let her die instead.
Right.
That's rule application rather than principle application, which is we would never do that under most circumstances. But in the circumstance where we need a defibrillated heart, well, we're going to do that. We'll have people kind of put up a barrier so we're not exposing her to the best of our ability, but we're not going to prevent the EMTs from saving her life.
Right. We're going to think of what's best for
What's
her
best
in
for
the
her in the
circumstance.
circumstance.
Right.
That's the principle-based approach to life. See?
Okay. What are some more design laws?
Okay, so another design law is the law of exertion. The law of exertion basically is if you want something to get stronger, you must exercise it. If you want stronger muscles, you've got to exercise them.
Yes.
If you want stronger math ability, you got to work problems. You want stronger musical abilities, you got to practice your instrument. Right. You want stronger reasoning capacities, which is what we're challenging our listeners to get,
right.
Then you have to be challenged with ideas that you haven't thought before. Okay. You've got to take time to think those through. You've got to look through the evidences. You've got to weigh them out. You've got to make some decisions to try them out, see if they work. You've got to come to conclusions and then begin implementing them.
So you've got to make some effort in your life, not just listen to what other people say or what you've learned in the past, but you have to be willing to put some effort into life.
Right. See, can you become a great musician by listening to the stereo 10 hours a day?
No.
You cannot become a great thinker by listening to great thinkers 10 hours a day.
Okay.
You actually, now, great musicians can absolutely listen to other musicians to be inspired, but then they have to actually go and play. They have to apply and exercise their musical talents. They have to actually exert themselves, the law of exertion. They have to exercise the neural circuits and the motor pathways to play the instrument or their vocal cords or whatever it is their musical expression is. They have to do it in order for them to grow. Same thing with your own reasoning abilities. It's great to listen to programs like this, but this program is not to tell you. It's not to indoctrinate you, not to get you a list of things. I believe this because Dr. Jennings said it. Terrible reason to believe things. But I listened to Dr. Jennings, and boy, he really inspired me. And I went home and I thought about this, and I thought about that, and I looked this up, and I checked that out, and I reasoned that through, and I came to this conclusion. You're exercising your own. So we're here to stimulate people to reason, because if you don't use it, you will lose it.
Right.
And so many things done in religion are done to indoctrinate. Here's the list of things you believe. You shouldn't think about this. You shouldn't ask questions. You shouldn't reason it through. If you ask questions, it means you don't have faith. And what these many things done in many religious circles do is they actually suspend the exercise of your higher cortical circuits, which dumb people down and preclude them from developing these higher capacities. So the law of exertion, we want people to exercise their ability to reason and think.
And even if they listen to something that's said on this program and they say, that's not true, it's false, and I don't like it, they should go back. Instead of rejecting something, we should understand things on our own, not just reject something because of the surface.
So multiple principles we put together. If they disagree with us, what's our attitude to that? We present truth in love and leave people free. You're free to disagree with us. It's okay.
Right.
We wouldn't coerce you. We wouldn't seek to force you. But one of the problems in many religious groups are they don't. They present the truth, and they present it under authority. And if you don't believe it, we're going to have to seek some legislation or some law, some enactment to punish you and coerce you. And you look at the history of the Christian church, what was the Dark Ages about? What was burning people at the stake about? What was the Inquisition about? It was about actually not leaving people free to have a difference of opinion. We would coerce and force people to come to the same conclusion as we are. This is antithetical to true Christianity, antithetical to God's design laws. You can never get love that way. You only get rebellion. You only destroy minds. And so we want to come back into God's real design for things, His design laws, truth, love, freedom, the big ones.
These are like incredible principles. If you'd like to submit a question, please go to timjenningsmd.com, and please come back next time, because we're going to be discussing on how to find a healthy partner.